Hello and welcome to the Board Game Barrage podcast. You are listening to episode number 330, and I am your host, Christina the Blue Tank, and with me as always, I have the three other tanks. Introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Dylan the Orange Tank.
I'm Mark the Green Tank.
We all have to do it in our unique voices.
Yes, I am Kellen the Red Tank.
Thank you all. Thank you for being here.
Will you do the slogan for me, love?
How are you all today?
Good, thank you.
Fantastic.
Completely
This is a
ignored.
podcast about the latest hotness how to have fun with your friends even when you're losing.
That's pretty close.
This is a game about... No, this is a game. We do say that a lot on this podcast. This is a game about, so you can't at me. Okay, what is it? This is a podcast? No.
A podcast about board games.
Oh, a podcast. I can't say words right now. A podcast about board games, the latest hotness, and how to have friends
fun
with
Your friends, even when
even
when you're losing.
We basically got there. I'm sure Mark can stitch something together.
Yeah,
That's
just
close.
make that all work,
enough.
Mark. Just make that all work.
No problem.
Today, we are a week returned from Dice Tower West, but that doesn't mean that we are not still super pumped from our experience there. And so what we're going to talk about today is the fact that we played
A bunch of games.
and we're going to tell you about them. So,
Pumped?
yeah, we're
Pumped.
super pumped,
Can
Kellen.
you go to Vegas and not get pumped?
I mean, not the way we go to Vegas.
That's right.
It's impossible. You're not pumped?
Not right now.
He's post-pumped.
We just watched White Lotus, and honestly, the music at the end really gets me pumped.
I had the same thought. I was like, man, this is like taking me back to
Yeah, well, okay,
last Sunday.
sorry. We didn't watch the most recent.
Okay, never mind.
But still,
the most
the
recent
music at the
definitely
end.
get you pumped.
Oh, I can't wait.
Are we all saying the same thing when we say pumped?
Yeah.
What do you mean
We
when
all
you
mean
say
it's
pumped?
exactly the same way.
I'm no longer sure.
Yeah.
Kellen,
We all
what do you
get
mean?
pumped.
What?
What do you mean?
What?
Like steroids? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
What other definition could there be?
I don't know.
Kellen, if you make me look like a fool,
No, you look good.
Mark
You're
is
the funny
gonna
one.
Mark's gonna
Mark's
cut it
laughing.
out. Okay?
This is good.
I'm just envisioning
gold.
all this like stuff I have to work with in the editing is going to be great. I can do anything.
All right.
No more faffing about.
Faffing?
Or you could say fluffing if you wanted to keep the pump
Kellen,
going.
are you serious? Pumped is a sexual term?
Well, I don't. Maybe.
Mark?
I think when you're Kellen, a lot of stuff are sexual terms.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Okay,
true.
so it's not like
You
some...
think I do that too often?
No.
What?
What? Oh, you're talking about...
Well, yeah.
How sharp
You-
that was?
Wait, how sharp what was? This?
Sorry, it was when I was laughing, the
It's like,
audio things were just like knives. Oh gosh, it was the combination of what he said and not understanding what I was asking, and then remembering the
right.
sushi night.
Yeah, right.
All right, so we're gonna jump right in. We're gonna start talking about some of the best and worst and everything in between of what we played at Dice Tower West. So, who wants to kick us off here? All right,
Okay.
Mark, take us away.
Sure.
Take it away.
So I'm going to take us to the fun-filled world of Corporate America, which is a game that we played at the Dice Tower West patron meetup. This is a game designed by Teal Fristo and published by Nothing Sacred Games. This was an early Kickstarter. Corporate America is a sort of, not a party game, but it's a game that requires a number of players. We played it, I think, with the full complement of 6.
It's basically a party game.
Yeah, what you're doing is you are running businesses. You're trying to influence government bills and then like direction of government in order to make your businesses flourish. You're taking bribes. You're running for president. And the winner at the end of this game about government is the player with the most money. So very cynical in that way. It's a game that has just a couple phases. There's not very much to it. There's a phase where you're going to be buying businesses. You'll have a hand of cards that will represent different kinds of businesses and different kinds of sectors of the economy, like technology or food service or whatever. You'll buy a number of businesses. You'll try to have them synergize. So you want multiple businesses in the same field, the same sector. After everybody buys a number of businesses, then you're going to have a phase where you are going to be drawing cards that are going to be triggering the different businesses to score. So for example, like if I have a couple businesses in transportation and on someone's turn during this phase of having the businesses pay off, they flip a transportation card, then I will get paid. The twist is that the person who is flipping these cards can decide to forego the one they just flipped and flip another one and have that one score. But every time they flip a subsequent card, it costs them money, which is, again, victory points in this game. But this is where bribes come in. So, for example, again, if I have transportation businesses and an energy sector card is flipped up first, I can tell the player that is flipping cards, hey, I know it's going to cost you $4 to flip another card, but I don't really like the card you just flipped, so I'll pay $2. Anybody else with me? Let's pay them to flip another card, that kind of sort of thing. So it's a negotiation bribery thing where you're trying to get people to do what you want in order to have your business score. After that phase of like getting money, there's a phase where laws will be proposed, and these laws affect how the game is going to be running for the rest of the game. Like maybe energy business score more, maybe certain businesses will score less, whatever the laws are. Sort of like the same way you see laws implemented in a lot of other games like Lancaster, where it's like sort of like a scoring modifier or a way to score. And then you are going to be voting for the president. Actually, you won't be voting. You'll be buying the presidency. I'll explain that. And the president is going to have the option of picking the 3 laws out of the 8 that are visible as the laws that are going to be enacted. And the way this works is you'll have a phase where you say, if I was president, I would run these 3 laws. Or if I was president, I would make sure this law didn't pass. And you'll be negotiating at the table. You'll say, okay, I'll back you. Just make sure you do not do this law, whatever it is. And then you go around twice, paying into the campaign finances of the player you want. And so it's a twice around. Whoever gets the most money, this is like a sort of a secret.
And you can also put your own money, contribute your own money to your own campaign.
Right, exactly. You can always pay into your own campaign.
We had a president who just funded his own win every single time.
That's right. The rich get richer.
It's not democracy.
Billionaires Club, right? Anyhow, so go around twice. Whoever's the president gets to enact the laws. Again, obviously, as you might have guessed, all these promises that you're doing for bribes are non-binding. So you can promise something and then go back on it. There are these cards that come up that will allow you to break rules. Like one of the things Christina's maybe alluding to is that we had a president who had a card that allowed him, when the campaign financing was revealed, just steal money from somebody's campaign contributions and just take it as personal money. So stuff like that, just like wacky stuff like that. You do that twice. A lot of negotiating, a lot of bribing, a lot of striking deals at the table. A silly game, but fun, sort of, I think, evocative of the theme with a cynical side.
Of what it's actually like to be an American.
That's right. Put down your history books and just play this game, I think, is the way to go.
This game was, in my opinion, a riotous good time.
I agree.
Loved this game. I had so much fun. Heart of an Artichoke summarized it in a really funny way, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but he said something like, this is top decking the negotiation game.
Yeah.
Which is to say, like, there's not really much. It's literally just, you're just negotiating. You don't have much control over what cards you get, what cards come up, etc. But it is just so fun arguing with people and making alliances for no reason. And, you know, banding together to gather enough money to bribe somebody to do what you want them to do.
Right.
I just had so much fun with this. It was so silly, but it was so fun. We were all yelling across the table the whole time. And it was super short, super thematic. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I agree. Like, it packs a lot of negotiation punch in a short amount of time. You look around the table, you try to find people who are sort of aligned with you in terms of the businesses they're running, and then you just sort of like try to band with them and try to make them pay a little bit more than you're paying when it comes to bribing things or taking actions. But yeah, just a lot of that stuff in a really quick, fun package, I think. So had a good time with corporate America.
But it's like, What, Mark? They were like,
Kellen didn't play, but he is really good at corporate America, so he didn't even need to play to be able to join this conversation.
first of all, like, how many of you can raise your hand and say that you've even existed in corporate America? Actually, that's an interesting question. Neelan, do you think you exist
Yeah,
in
I would
corporate
say
America?
so. I mean, I work for one of the biggest
Interesting.
companies in the world. Like, I think that's fair to say.
What about me? I worked for Omnicom. Beat that.
Omnicom does sound pretty
It sounds like
villainous. Yeah,
Exactly.
that maybe has us all beat.
Sorry, I interrupted you and you forgot what you were going to say.
No, Mark, there were like 5 or 6 games this convention. I'm just like, why the is Mark having us play this game? And I didn't play corporate America, so I can't like speak to it. But it's like, what, this is 10 years old at this point.
Yeah.
And is not like a lauded negotiation game, let's
Okay.
call it. Again, it sounds like you guys had a great time and had the exact right group to make it amazing. But why are you like, yeah, I'm going to get corporate America played? Like, where was the impetus?
I'm so glad you asked this question because this is like, I have a lot of games and they've all sort of fall into different ways of categorizing them. I can categorize them in a number of different ways. I categorize corporate America, among other things, as a Kellen game because this is a game that I found because some people love it. And like nobody really has ever heard of it. It's like a very diamond in the rough. You have strong opinions on both sides. At least the time when I picked it up, I haven't read the reviews recently. And again, this is a game from from 2013, so I don't know if there are any even reviews up in the last couple of years. But when I first researched the game, it was a very divisive game, and also it's not a Euro. It's a negotiation game that plays a number of players. That plays pretty quickly. And so, during a convention party atmosphere thing, I don't want a game that we're going to be playing for 2 hours. I don't want like a Euro game where everybody has their head down. So looking negotiation, looking something different and looking for something quick, and it sort of fit the bill.
And it was a success, Kellen.
Well, it doesn't sound like it was a success. He put it aside to play with me. Where was I?
Yeah,
Where
where
were
were
you?
you?
I have no idea.
I
were
said, do you wanna
sitting
play
at the
corporate
table
America?
next to us.
I was eating sliders.
You were not eating
That's
sliders,
what you were
unfortunately.
not
I'm sad to
doing.
report.
We know about that. Okay. Thank you, Mark, for telling us about corporate America.
very
Now
welcome.
we are going to move on to Popcorn Kellen.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out a new version of Acquire, which just came out this year from Sid Saxon, the best board game designer of all time. And this comes to us from Renegade. This is the new deluxe edition of Acquire that has poker chips in it. And I believe it was Neelan's first game of Acquire, as well as Christina's.
Correct.
And this has lineage, well, it's the progenitor, a word that I was taught by Mark and Neelan, to other games like Shark and Big Boss and games like Stevenson's Rocket. It's a very simple stock game where you have a grid, you're setting up companies, and then when the companies merge into each other, people get paid. But counterintuitively, you kind of need your companies, quote unquote, companies that you have stock in to go under to give you cash to make it to the sort of end of the game. You can buy 3 shares of stock on your turn, and that's it. So it's like literally play a random tile because you have 6 choices of where to play a tile, see what it does to the companies, and then buy up to 3 shares. That's basically the game. But what comes out of it is this sub 1 hour, very feisty, funny game that for me in my house as a child was sort of the Monopoly replacement, I would say. This was a game that my dad was willing to play. I felt pretty bad about Neelan and Christina's first game because they got absolutely it was like,
Okay, this is the type of game where if you don't build momentum early on, it almost feels like player elimination. Like you're almost just out and there's nothing you can do to recover. And I think that it being a first game and me being notoriously bad at listening to, Kellen
Talking?
teaching rules.
did I hear you right?
No, okay. It's not just Kellen. I have a really hard time listening to rules and I kind of have to learn as I play. And this was not a game where you could really do that because I made like 2, not even mistakes, but just like slight misplays early on. And I literally could not recover. It was just like I didn't understand one thing and I did something kind of wrong and I didn't get any money for a really long time, so I had nothing to work with.
Yeah, well, you and I both made the same mistake, which was, despite having been told by Kellen, like, invest in this type of company, the ones that are going to get swallowed versus the ones that are going to grow, we both were investing heavily in the companies that were growing. And so when companies started getting eaten up, we didn't have, as Kellen kept saying, that like mid-game injection of cash, which, as you said, kind of eliminated us from the second half of the game.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't this isn't like a 2-hour affair, so I think that's...
We still had fun.
Oh, of
right,
course,
Neil?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
This is a lovely new edition of the game that I really, really like. But yeah, it was kind of a brutal game, because even about 2/3 of the way through, I was like, should I slow down a smidgen? And then I was concerned that Mark was going to catch up to me. So I was like, I can't let Mark win. He's not going to agree to a gentlemanly slowdown here. But yeah, it's a game about riding shareholder bonuses, which is like when the company goes under, if it's smaller than the other one, the person who has the most shares gets like a bonus on top of selling all their shares. And so you kind of want to ride dink and dunk around and ride the little companies to suddenly being in charge of the biggest company in the game. Acquire is one of Sid Sackson's like most classic designs, and probably the one he's most famous for. Mark, do you think?
Yeah, I would say so.
It's certainly
Can't
not
Stop
on
would
the
be the only
box,
rival,
right?
I would say.
I feel like
Yeah.
Can't Stop has like taken on a complete new life of its own on post BGA, but yeah, I mean, Acquire was the one certainly that I had heard the most about up until that point.
Just really super rock solid. I'm excited by what Renegade is doing right now with these, because they did Acquire and they just did Diplomacy. They're doing a Diplomacy expansion later in the year. I don't know how you can expand upon that. But yeah, I was really excited to be able to show this to this crew of 4. And they all loved it. The fanfare will not stop.
I'm like Christina said, I'm glad to have played it. I still had a good time with it, despite, feeling pretty out of it for most of it, like, from competitively. But I had a good time with it. I think it's like with a lot of the games that I feel like I've just been sitting in the back of my brain as a game that we hear people talk about all of the time, because I have now played maybe 3 or 4 Acquire likes and still not have it played Acquire, right? Like,
oh, there was that other Acquire Euro
Dawn of
Oros.
Ulos was, I didn't realize this at the time, but I remember backing it because, this seems like a cool mechanic, a cool system. And then I showed it to Kellen, and Kellen was like, it's just basically Acquire with factions. I was like, okay, I didn't realize that, but that's cool.
Yeah. Fun to see this back in print in a new edition. Blast from my childhood.
Yeah, let's play it again. Bring
That's
it
what
out.
I like to hear. Christina finally listening to me.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Oh, I have to transition us. Thank you, Kellen, for telling us about...
Wow. Keep that in there, Mark, as it is. They can see the duplicitous nature of Christina.
Thank you for sharing.
She went from hot to cold real fast, folks.
Thank you for sharing Acquire with us. A gift from your childhood to our inner childhood.
Yep.
All right. Neelan, what do you want to talk about?
I think I'm going to jump in with Inside Job, which was a game that I had it been another one that was on my radar for a little while, but then I'd forgotten about for a long time. And then we saw a copy. I think we just saw it in the library, and then we're like, hey, we should just try this. It is a social deduction trick-taking game, which, as someone that is starting to appreciate trick-taking games more and more and has always been on the social deduction train, I was like definitely keen to try out. The basic premise of this is it is a pretty standard trick-taking game, so I'm not going to go into all the details of that and the specifics, but what you are doing is every time you win a trick, you get a little intel briefcase, and one of you, as in most social deductions, is secretly a traitor, the insider. Everyone else is on a team working together, but no one knows who is who. If at any point the insider gets, just for the sake of example, 4 intel briefcases, this is probably going to depend on player count. If you get 4 briefcases, you instantly just flip over your insider card and you've won. So if you ever win 4 tricks as the insider, that's it, game over. But at the same time, all the good players are trying to complete these missions. So there might be a mission that says something like, the second card played must win the trick, or the third card must be higher in number than the lower card, or the fourth card must be offsuit, something like that. There's a very specific mission that comes out every round. And the thing that's neat about this is the person that leads the trick is the person that chooses which of 2 2 missions is going to be the one chosen. Kind of, this is like a Battlestar Galactica type thing. You draw 2 cards, you look at both, you play one, no one gets to see the other one. You get to say, oh, trust me, the other one was
bad.
They were, yeah, exactly.
They were both bad, Neelan.
This was definitely the right one. But the fun thing about that is that card also determines the trump. So you as the lead player, if you're the insider, you have a little bit more like handle on how the round is going to go. You might be more likely to win it as a result of that choice, therefore get that crucial intel you need. And it kind of just breaks down like that. The good team are trying to get a certain number of missions succeeded before the insider gets a certain amount of intel, and that's basically it. So you're kind of looking around the table, looking at who's trying to get intel, but are they doing it to stop the insider? Are they doing it because they are the insider? Are they deliberately throwing missions? And then if at the end of the round, if neither of those 2 conditions has been satisfied, you're going to do a point around the table. Who do you think is the insider situation? So very simple. I thought this was cute. I think that we definitely sort of struggled to find good ways to succeed as the insider, but I think that would be something that would probably bear out through repeat plays. But very, very cool idea. I like the idea of this quite a lot.
Yeah, I think the social deduction plus trick taking was something that we had tried in shamans. And I think it works much better here. I don't think that's like a universal opinion. I think there is definitely some feistiness between the two. I will say that I had Inside Job on my unplayed shelf of shame, because it is shameful to buy things, kids, that you don't intend to play. And after playing it, I think we played 3 or 4
rounds. Yeah.
4 rounds. I don't think I need to hold on to this. I find it quite specific, which is like people who understand, like, playing a trick-taking game and a social deduction game with people who might not know each genre perfectly would be disastrous. Because I think even just playing a trick-taking game, you've got these people like, oh, I don't know what to do, herder. And like, it almost, this is like the complication of that. This times this. But we had the perfect group to try it. I'm glad we played it. It was fun. And goodbye.
Where was I? I wasn't part of the perfect group, Kellen.
I did not say it was the perfect group.
I think you did.
I said,
roll the tape.
Let's be clear.
Yeah, this is where I'll roll the tape again.
Well, no. Don't roll the tape. But we had the perfect group to try it. I'm glad we played it. It was...
Yeah, but I could be the perfect group for this game.
You saying that if I ever think something is perfect and you're not involved...
There's a problem.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly.
All right, okay. You're perfect.
I think I landed kind of the same place, which is I liked it a fair bit, but it does beg the question of when would I play this? Like, do I have a group of players that are both enough of a social deduction fans and people who like trick takers? Like, I'm barely that person to sort of try convince someone else that would be the right fit is hard. I think it's a very niche game. I think if you've played a lot of trick takers and you have the right group that is not going to say no to a social deduction, I do think it's worth trying for sure.
Yeah, I think I also own probably 40 or 50 trick takers, and I would say that's obscene, and I'm working to get that under 10, because I think that any more than 10 and you're wrong.
Future podcast episode, the 10 best trick takers.
That's right. Mark it down here.
And that was Inside Job. Thank you, Neelan. I will now be talking about finishing time, also known as a word that I cannot pronounce. Can any of you pronounce this?
Unenslag.
Where is it again?
Feierabend.
Is it German? I assume it's German.
It is German.
Feierabend.
Oh, that was pretty good, Neelan.
You say that.
So this is a good old Friedman Friese. You all know we love ourselves some Friedman Friese. And we got to, this is actually the last game we played together, the last game of the con. So the last game of the con always holds a special place in our hearts. And this game, wow, let me tell you. Okay, so this is a worker placement game. Or, as they say in the description, this is an after worker placement game.
What?
Alan?
After work?
After worker placement game.
Work never ends.
Because the whole idea, the whole theme around this game is that you are living a miserable existence, working 70 hours a week. You make no money. Women make way less than men. You don't have any vacation time. You don't have a partner. Like, you start out this game as an absolutely miserable person. All you do is work, and the only relief you can find is, like, you can go to the bar and get drunk, basically.
Tell me more.
That is the theme we are working with, and let me tell you, I love this theme. I was so excited about this because, well, okay, so spoiler, did not have a winning strategy, but I was like, I am getting myself vacation time as fast as possible. I don't even care about raising my salary. I just want vacation time. I want to be happy. I want to go running. I want to go to the park. Any recreational activities, sign me up. I did not go to the bar once, all right? I want that to be on the record. Did not take a single sip, okay?
I noted that in BG Stats.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mark. So basically, I'll tell you what the game actually is. Although I feel like that pretty much does tell you a lot about
Yeah.
what the game is. It is a worker placement game where you, like I said, live a horrible, miserable existence in this rat race. And you have to try and figure out how to get out of the rat race. And there are all these different options for how you can do that. You could raise your income. You could work to gain vacation time. You could work to make sure that women earn as much as men. You could
Lower
go
your
take
weekly
breaks
hours.
and you could lower your weekly hours. Yeah, because you're working 70 hours a week, people. Who wants to live like that? Not me.
And you got to riot.
Yeah, you have
To
to
get what you
riot.
want.
You have to riot. Well, not riot. You
Riot tokens.
Strike.
Were they
Strike.
called
You got
riot tokens?
tokens.
No,
Yeah.
strike. It's strike.
Strike, Alan.
damn
It's
it.
thematic. You're going on strike.
Well,
You have
riot's
to-
pretty thematic.
Riot's pretty good, but you have to go on strike in order to make
You got to get
any
your strike
changes.
tokens.
So you do have to get your strike tokens. So you're at a constant lack of both money and strike tokens because those are your power in this game. That's how you're going to perform actions and increase your life's joys.
Yeah. Decrease your stress, which is the victory point.
Decrease your stress. Yeah, actually, that's specifically what it's called, is decreasing stress and increasing stress. And that is the score tracker, right?
Yep.
Is like stress.
Yeah.
So victory points are stress.
Wasn't that the other way around? Aren't you like earning relaxation?
You're earning... Oh, you're right. You're earning relaxation.
Yeah, I think it's relaxation
No, but
points.
the
It's- yeah, I think
term
it's
was decreasing stress.
Yeah,
Wasn't
because every time you have to pick up your workers when you've used them all, you're basically thematically going back to work and stressing yourself out, and then you go backwards on this relaxation.
Right, because it went
VP
into the
track.
negatives at some point.
Yeah, right. When you're
Oh,
overly
yeah.
stressed.
Oh, it was in the negatives, Neelan.
Yes.
We were all in the negatives, which was actually a really interesting thing is pretty much everybody that was playing within, I don't know, it was the first like 3 rounds, right? Where at the end of your round, essentially, because everybody starts with a different amount of players. And so everybody actually has to collect all their workers at different times, which is a really interesting thing that I liked in this. And it kind of it creates for a strange cadence that we can talk about. But when you do that action, you're also earning your income and you're earning your stress. So everybody for the first few rounds was going into the negative of stress, even if they had spent all their time during their turn just decreasing stress, increasing relaxation. Kellen, you look like you want to say something.
No, it did sort of feel like it thematically captured that feeling of like you literally could not get out of it.
Yeah.
And if you went below this point on the track, the only thing you were allowed to do was go get drunk until you were out of that part of the track. So it was sort of like being stuck in it and then slowly chipping away at it until finally you hit this sort of like middle manager inflection point where suddenly you don't have to work so much and then you can kind of pop off.
Although, Kellen, you worked a lot. You didn't care about vacation. All you cared about was making more money.
No. I also cared about the prostitutes and the motel room.
The prostitute.
Yeah, you paid 1 coin, you got 6 relaxation. I had a harem of companions.
I thought they were companions, not prostitutes.
What do you mean? I had like 6 of them.
That's for all your workers.
Oh, those are individual people? Oh, well, okay, listen. You literally pick them up on a first date with money, right?
True.
And then for the rest of the game,
They're
you
your
can go to the
companion.
Love Hotel with them and get 6 for 1
And
coin.
the Love Hotel was the best way to make, well, yeah, like Kellen said, to get, like, it was the most efficient way to get relaxation points. The ratio of money spent to relaxation points gained, it could not be beat. And these jerks blocked me out of the Love Hotel for literally the entire game. I did not get to go to the Love Hotel once.
Listen, it was literally all you yuck fucks were fighting over vacation, and I was going back and forth between the Love Hotel and taking them to the amusement park and spending a lot of money to impress them. And what strategy worked out, Christina?
Did you win?
Yeah, I won.
Well, I knew I didn't win, but I didn't know that you won. So money, I guess the lesson is that earning more money is the way to get out of the rat race. But listen, I still think, even though I didn't win, you should focus on your mental health and take vacation. Don't worry about, well, no, you should also get a raise. But, you know, do it all. This is not like the game. You can do it.
Real life is not like this game. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it did kind of, like, to your point, it did feel like that. Like, we know what that feeling is when you're just like working so much and you're drowning and you're miserable and you're not making very much money and you don't have an option to get another job and it's horrible. Like, I do think there were parts of this game that capture that, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and somehow the people just picking up people at the amusement park and taking them straight to the Love Hotel were the people that got ahead in life. It was very thematic.
I liked this. I thought the theme certainly helped
for sure
sell it, but the sort of tempo considerations were odd, and we were definitely blocking each other out of things we wanted, and there was that sort of tension of just like, please God, no one go to the strike token spot. I really need it, which was nice. And there were sort of different upgrade paths, right? Which is the strike tokens. Do I want to increase my income, which is what I did, or do I want to, you know, increase my ability to get strike tokens, which will then help me, you know, do all the different things? Actually, I also, Christina,
I know what you're going to say.
I fixed inequality before anyone else because it was cheaper than getting my income up.
Oh my God.
It was a faster way to get income than raising my income.
Good job, Kellen.
Thanks for saying that.
I think that this is, while not the best of Friedman Friese's games, this shows Friese at his best in some ways, because what I love about Friese games is they always seem to be built from the ground up and not really iterative of, sometimes he's iterative of his own designs, but like not iterative of like what's going on in the board game hobby as a whole. You know, we've seen everything before in this game, but it just felt fresh. It felt like if you're going to play like a Euro worker placement game, like this would be one of the ones that I would want to play. It just feels different. It feels like interesting, and you've seen everything before, but you haven't seen it like this, and just that freshness that Friese provides.
Yeah, I think that's right, because specifically that like timing cadence that Christina mentioned, that kind of throws everything about a worker placement game slightly off kilter, where it's like, it's not just everyone playing all their workers in a round. You have to look around the table and be like, okay, I think Kellen's going to go out in 2 rounds and pick up his workers. Therefore, I know that this spot's going to be available if I also adjust my timing in the same way. It's got like some clever stuff that you have to work around constantly in reaction to what people are doing, rather than just getting to a spot before someone else gets to that spot. You know, it's pretty clever. It's a neat twist on worker placement.
It's a very confident game. There's not like a ton of variety, I would say, and like the game is really like what other people are blocking, but like he has the gumption to sort of just stick it there and not add variability with these cards, you know, variability with these powers. It's just like, it's there.
Yeah.
And that was finishing time. So next, I think we're going to bring it back to Mark.
Yep.
And Mark is going to tell us about go for
Moon.
it, Mark.
Moon Colony
Bloodbath.
This
most
is
popular game at
the con.
Yeah,
we did wait
depending on how you.
We did wait in line for like what, 2.5 hours?
No, we didn't wait.
It was
2.5 hours.
Well, we were doing other things. We were playing other games, but we were perched above their table.
We were like negotiating,
especially if you include Longtime Sunshine's time that he waited.
Yeah, like a different group was waiting for like 40 minutes,
and then they had to abandon to go play a different game.
And then
then we took over.
We're long time. We're him.
We're
That's
him.
Us. Yeah, we've been waiting.
It's been us the whole time.
So this
we are him.
Were you all familiar with this going into it? Had you heard of it before?
I had, just because of Donald Vaccarino, Mr. Dominion himself.
So, as Kellen says, this is the latest game from Donald Vaccarino, and it was not a game that I knew about, and when somebody said, let's go play Moon Colony Bloodbath, it was sort of not the sort of game that I was expecting. It sounds like a Ameritrashy dice rolling, kill everybody sort of thing. It's not really that. It's a deck builder, as again, you would guess from Donald Veccarino, but very, very tongue in cheek, very sort of like, reminds me of like Mars Attacks sort of like pulp sci-fi humor and artwork by Franz Wolfwinkel. So the way this game works is like it's a shared deck builder. You're all working off the same deck, but you're all also building your own engines that you're going to be building up, knowing that they are going to be exploding at the end of the game, and you are just trying to, once somebody goes out, once somebody is like eliminated, then you figure out who has done the best of what's left over. And using the term of what's left over is apt in this game because, as I said, this game is all about staving off inevitable complete destruction as best as you can and just trying to hold out a little bit more than the players around you. The way it works is there's this shared deck that you're going to be drawing off of, and then everybody's going to be reacting to the cards that are drawn. 4 times during this deck, you're going to have respite where you are actually going to be working. This is sort of like opposite of finishing time, where finishing time is all about trying to get away from working. This game is all about praying for work because those are the
it's a relief when you get to work.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the 4 cards, the 4 work cards are the 4 times where you actually are building up your engine. The way building up your engine works is that you are going to be building these buildings that have a cost in currency, but also have like a population. So like a card might cost 5 to build, but then give you like 15 population or something like that. They're not necessarily 3 to 1 or 2 to 1. Some might have like a cost 10 to build and give you 5 population, but they're also giving you other bonuses. They're going to give you passive abilities or one-time bonuses or something. So you're building these buildings up that are, giving you bonuses to stave off what is happening with the rest of the deck, which are negative factors that sometimes are just like a negative. And I should say that the main thing you're trying to do is like hold on to your population. The population is like another currency of the game. So most times in this game, you'll flip a card that says 10 people die and everybody has to discard 10 of the population. And some of the cards that come up are like contingent on like, if you have X amount of food, then something happens. But most of them are just like, based on the situation, you're going to lose some number of population. And the number of cards that will lose population early in the game are, relatively small. So you get out of the first round relatively unscathed. You may actually be building things up. But the problem is that there are cards in this, again, shared draw pile that add more bad stuff into the deck. And then once the deck is extinguished, once you've used all the cards up, you're going to shuffle everything up and go through it again. And as there are cards that add more bad cards to the deck, each time you go through the deck, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until you get to the point where people are just, again, hanging on, for dear life. They've got a couple population left. Once you get to a point where some, disaster has befallen everybody and you don't have enough population to cover it, you start discarding those buildings you've built up, so you're destroying your engine, and then that population to each card that you built that I mentioned earlier, where a building has a cost and a population, that becomes like the population you get for destroying the card. So if I have a card that I built that has, cost me 5 but has a 10 population, and now I'm out of people and I need to pay people to survive, I discard that card and I get 10 people and then I pay whatever I need to pay. And you're just doing that until somebody gets to a point where their entire engine has been stripped and they're out of people. And then once they're completely out, you stop the game and you look around and see who has the most population and they win the game. And that was Moon Colony Bloodbath. I played this twice at a convention where we wanted to sort of, or at least I wanted to sort of try a bunch of different things. I enjoyed this enough the first time that I was very eager to try it again. The humor, I think, worked for the game and made it like sort of like lighthearted in a game where you're just losing stuff all the time. It wasn't like dour or like about destroying your people or like hardcore sci-fi.
But how much of the humor, Mark, was because of your brilliant caller in both
That's
games?
True. Yes. Callan, reprising his role as brilliant caller from his game of Ready, Set, Bet, was the person who flipped the cards in Moon Colony Bloodbath and gave everybody little funny nicknames. Just a tour de force in improv comedy, I thought. So, yes, that was a big part of it.
That's so... Actually, even the way you said 10 people died, I would say -10 population. And I'm like, my God, I should have said 10 people died, like really loudly, because that would have been funnier. And I thought Dr. was funny, but then by the time I got to the second group, I'm like, I don't think it's funny anymore. Now I'm annoyed at myself.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this game. Again, it was my game of the con, if I haven't said that already.
I really like how it's described on BGG. Try to survive in this engine building, engine losing tableau game.
Yep.
Cute, right?
Yeah, that's apt.
It's apt.
I think that one of the things that I find that I like about it is that no one gets out like unscathed. It's not like It's not like one person is just winning and they have this engine that's singing and they're up 20 populations. Like everyone is starting to delete buildings at the end of the game, and it's just who can hold on the longest, which I find super great. I will say that, and just relishing my role as the Debbie Downer of every situation, I do feel like this plays exceptionally well in a con environment. And I will say that after the second game, I was about half as enamored as after the first game. So the variety comes from these twists that you add to the base deck. And so the first time we played with the beginner twist, and then we played with random twists. And it's a little weird because like every action is some form of like lose people. And it's just like minor variants of lose people. And so then the actual variability comes from the building deck. And those powers are quite plain.
Yeah.
I was going to say vanilla, but vanilla is objectively the best in and out shake flavor, which we can all confirm together. So I like this. There's almost like no interactivity, almost zero, or actually zero, perhaps zero.
Yeah, I felt that way too. So I was really, really excited about this because I missed the first game that everyone played of it. And they were kind of like, oh my God, you're going to love this. It's so much fun. And as it was described to me, I was like, wow, I love that premise. That's so interesting. I'm going to love this. And then when I was actually playing it, it was still fun, and I still liked the idea behind it. And I agree with Kellen. I liked that we were all kind of suffering together, but it just wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. I don't know. And again, I didn't get to play 2 games. I only got to play 1. So that's my caveat. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun. Maybe I was a little tired by that point. I don't know. But yeah, it just wasn't quite it didn't hit as hard as I expected, I guess.
Was it the inherent negative aspect of it where whatever you build is going to be destroyed and you just weren't like into that?
I think that must have been it. I'm trying to remember now because
Sure.
there definitely is a point where you finally feel like, okay, I have gotten to a point where I'm actually mildly happy with my tableau, and then it just starts getting destroyed so quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm struggling to remember exactly what it was that had me less excited about
Sure.
it. But again, I didn't like dislike it. I still had fun. It just was not my game of the con.
I think that particular thing that it starts dismantling almost as soon as it spins up is actually the thing I liked the most about it, is that you never really feel like you're just like running your engine for more than like one round, and then it just starts like falling apart. And then it's like picking the parts that need to break apart first. I do like share I did share Kellen's concern because I just only played the one game of this, and I remember talking to Kellen after he had played the second game that the buildings just kind of felt the same the second time around, and even by the time you're running once through the deck, you've kind of seen all the things that the buildings have on offer. Like that's the sort of thing that feels easily fixable, like down the run of like having like let's imagine a couple of expansions that add some variety to this, but like it is a tough pull to swallow on like for just the base game, like if it already starts to feel a little bit staid after the first couple of games. That said, like I still think that this is like a fun enough experience that kind of just feels light enough and easy enough to teach to like a group of 5 players, that it fits like a specific niche that I think is pretty strong. I think it's pretty strong in that realm of light Euro-ish game for 5 players. But yeah, I would be similarly concerned about the replayability of it for sure.
Well, and we don't play games.
Right.
Okay, here at Board Game Barrage. And so like to me, this actually just shows how good of a designer Vaccarino is, and how I would almost always be willing to try one of his games like Friesa. It's rock solid. It's just after the first game, I was like, I'm buying it tomorrow.
Right.
And after the second game, I was like, maybe I want to wait for an expansion. That was kind of wearing it out. Still want it, but maybe I want to wait for expansion. Great game for a large group of people, though, to your point.
And that was Moon Colony Bloodbath. Kellen, why don't you tell us about Family Dinner?
So one of the things that I was most excited about at Dice Tower West was this sort of indie game market thing, which was called Game Night Market. I think. Taylor of Taylor's Trick Takers, content creator, was hosting a night that was sort of similar to the Tokyo Game Market, if you've ever heard of it, where you had to have an indie game, you had to have 25 copies of your game, and then you went there to sell them. And Mike DeLisio, friend of the podcast, I was like, should I buy your game, Mike? And he's like, I don't know, it might be broken. No one's ever played it, or something crazy like that. And we still got in line and gave him $20 to get his game, which we have not played, and we are not talking about today. But one game that we did get is called Family Dinner, More or Less. Now, I don't really know how to describe the situation with how we got the game, but essentially, yeah, Christina, do you want to describe the situation?
Well, yeah, it was really like touching actually, because we were walking through and then one of the sellers said Kellen's name, and like I was kind of surprised. Kellen was kind of surprised, but he went up, and Danny is the person who made and was selling this game. And Danny was telling Kellen this story about Family Dinner and how it came to be, and how essentially it was inspired by something that Kellen said on the podcast about arguing with his brothers. And, he was like, I really want you guys to play this. And he was basically like, Kellen, play this with your brothers. And it was just like this really sweet moment.
No, it was very like, you inspired this game, you, and like, take this copy and don't accept money. It was very generous. And, like, these are homemade copies of games. So like, people are spending money to make them. So, we set out to play this game as soon as we could.
That night. Like, we got home and immediately got it out and started playing.
I feel like Mark is the secret, like, what do you call it when someone's like a sucker, they get got. Like, he gets got by he was smiling. He was so happy about it.
I was very touched with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I call it a sucker, I guess. You call it getting touched.
I call it having emotions. You call it being a sucker.
Yeah. Family Dinner, more or less, is a party game where you are trying to set the table. No, so on your turn, everyone has these like crazy 3D printed dinner plates where they have 3 plates and less is written on one side, more is written on the other side, and you sort of put yourself in the middle. And then you roll a die and you have a card and you roll the die and it's like skill, opinion, knowledge, time, love. And then of the thing that could be something like confidence, public displays of affection. And so what happens is let's use an example here. Let's all talk about Kellen's knowledge of public displays of affection. Okay? And so what would happen is I would set myself in the middle table, and then everyone else would have the exact same 3D printed thing, and they would be trying to unpack not what they believe, who has more knowledge of PDA, but what they think that I believe everyone has knowledge of PDA. And so basically, if you think I think you have the same knowledge of PDA, which is a weird thing to have knowledge about, but here we are playing the game together, you would put your cube in the same dinner slot in the middle. And my goal is to try to match as many people as possible. But what makes it sort of fun is the discrepancy between what you might think, what they think you might think, and then also just the arguing about, who has the most knowledge of networking. And so the way that we played this was we actually went around one at a time and revealed our answers and then also had to justify them, which I think makes it even greater because it's like, well, I thought Kellen, I've seen the most PDA out of Kellen, so I thought he might be the most knowledgeable, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that this is quite good at sort of this middle ground between a True Colors, which is like, you, all my friends, like not great. And then like Fun Facts, which is like, no one is getting offended in a game of Fun Facts. I mean, you can.
Except for my family.
Except for Christina's family. But Fun Facts is so benign. And so this exists like in a nice middle ground between those two where you can have some spicier takes. And we were kind of looking for the spicier cards. I would say that the scoring we mostly stopped doing, like most party games we play. a couple of turns in. And I will say that sometimes it became unclear when you would roll the dice. You know, it's like skill of treats, or, love of treats. That makes a ton of sense.
Knowledge of treats.
Knowledge of treats. And so we were trying to unpack the difference between those things, which was also funny because we were just arguing with each other the whole time. So, yeah, what did you guys think of family dinner, more or less?
I loved it. We had a lot of hilarious reveals where it it did go into the territory of True Colors a couple of times.
Yeah.
Where it was like, oh, I had no idea Neelan thought that about me, or sometimes in a really nice way, like, oh, that's a really nice take that I didn't realize my friend had about me, So it led to some both interesting moments, funny moments, and sweet moments. I loved it.
I think the
we love debating, so
I think the presentation as like a softer True Colors, and especially just like the way the game is themed, the little placemats with the plates and like putting the cubes out, it's just delightful. Like it's such a perfect little theme for like a cozier version of like a more family friendly True Colors that I think just works really, really well in that realm.
Yeah, I mean, we played it more than once, right?
Yeah.
Like we got it out on multiple nights just as a great way to kind of investigate each other a little bit more and kind of spark those arguments.
I think if Christina had her druthers, we would have kept playing it over and over again because after we played it, she was eager to break out again, like later on in the
we were
in the
having
night.
great discussions.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It was very fun. Very fun.
I do think that this could be particularly dangerous if I attempted to play it with like coworkers. I don't know. Like True Colors would just be like, your career's over, no more corporate America.
Yeah.
Like this is like, could I get away with this? And like it would spark conversation. It'd be like, who has the most knowledge of, like fashion or whatever, and like hearing my coworkers attempt, there's no middle ground. It's like either Mark has more or less knowledge of fashion than Kellen, and you got to put it down on the table.
Oh, that one was funny, actually. It was also interesting because Kellen and I we were guessing what Kellen would think. I almost always exactly matched Kellen. I knew exactly what he thought.
What? What is this? What's the joke? Why are you laughing?
Because it was fun.
All right. It was fun. So thank you, Danny. Super cool. He did also say you ignored all the emails I sent you, which I did find. And yes, we did ignore all the emails you sent us. So sorry about that. But thank you for the game. That is Family Dinner, more or less.
Thank you, Kellen. And thank you, Danny. Neelan, tell us about... I can't remember tell us about Mr. Diamond.
Mr. Diamond. We all played this, although not all at the same time necessarily. But this was brought to us...
Did Kellen play this?
Yep.
I don't think I was in Kellen's game, if I remember correctly, but yeah. So we all played this separately and together in different mixes. But this was brought to us by Evil Lemons in the Discord, who is become somewhat of a curator of very, very silly imported games. So Mr. Diamond is, I guess, from 1993, which is wild. It's an older one, but
that's older than me.
It's very, very dumb.
It's not.
So it's older than... Okay, right, let's go.
Wait, what year?
Sorry, Neil.
No.
93.
I thought you said it's... I thought because I said it's dumb, and then you said it's not. I was like, wait, really?
Wait, what year is it from?
93.
Oh. Okay. It's not older than me either. Shoot.
Mr. Diamond is really, really, really dumb. It is a plastic tray with a bunch of like little plastic diamonds on little pedestals. And imagine all these little diamonds, these little pedestals are free to slide around this tray. And what you have to do is touch one diamond and then move it. That's it. That is how you succeed in Mr. Diamond. But some of these diamonds are glued to the tray. So there's a whole number of these pedestals that are just pre-attached to the tray. It's pretty much impossible to tell which are which when they're all mixed around on the tray. You spin the tray around to start. You touch a diamond, try to move it. If you do that, you succeed. And it's like a little push your luck game. You're trying to get towards these little gold cards. If you get 3 of them, you get the highest gold card. Or you get 2 of them, go out on the smallest one. Or you just bust and it passes to the next player. That's the whole game. Incredibly dumb, incredibly silly, but it was a lot of fun.
This was absolutely like alongside Moon Colony, like one of the highlights of gaming for me at the convention. I mean, it is very, very simple. I would encourage people to check it out on the BGG page to get a better idea of what it looks like. But I tell you, like, it seems so silly and so like broken. Maybe upon description, you think like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Like, of course you'll be able to tell. I'm telling you, I was sitting there looking at these little mini diamond plastic things closely and thinking like I will definitely be able to tell up close which ones are fixed to the table and which ones are loose, and you cannot. It's designed, maybe this is giving it too much credit, but it's designed really well to trick people, and I just thought this was a blast.
It's like you just keep stubbing your finger when you mess up,
Right?
You know, because you're like so sure that it's gonna move.
You confidently
You
slam
really
your finger
feel
down.
so stupid. It
Yes.
makes you feel dumb because you're like, well, I'm going to move this diamond. And it just like won't go. You just feel so silly.
I think that it does make me question, because it's like, okay, we've been talking about like we played a game of Fuji Flush, right, which is a Friedman Friese stupid game, but like in my top 50 games ever. But like Mr. Diamond, you know, Fuji Flush is in Mensa with Mr. Diamond.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this is like, you know, like Mark's like, hey, I got a game, you know, it's a bag of magnets, you know, ha ha ha. And then like Mr. Diamond is like 7 tiers stupider than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like people commit to it and they have fun with it. But like this is really stupid.
In the best way.
Yeah.
In like
Yeah, but-
absolutely the best way.
How do you evaluate that? What's that out of 10? How stupid is that?
I mean,
What's your
it's
ranking?
of stupidness? I don't have my stupidness
No,
ranked.
what are you ranking it on BGG? That's
I
like
would
just go on your
your
top-
game of the con.
Yeah, what's it
No,
go to your top
I
50
would
mark?
probably, I would probably rank this. I would probably give it like a BGG score of like 7 or 8, something like that. Like, it's just fun. Like, is it fun or not? Is it like, that's what it is, and it is fun. And it's probably a game
Yeah,
where
I'm
if I
not-
played
I'm
it
not
a bunch
disagreeing.
of times, like I would lower that ranking because I'd get like sick of it. But as it stands now, if you gave me like a choice of all the games that are available at the con to play again tonight, it would be up there. It'd be a top 5 for sure.
But it's like, it's fun to show other board gamers, right? Like if
Right.
you were trying to convert your coworkers to board gaming and they're like, fine, Mark, we'll play one game, and you bring out Mr. Diamond,
I mean,
what do you think they're going to think about you?
It's going to be one of the most accessible ones. I don't think it's going to get them like closer to Catan or something like that. Like, we're not moving
Wow,
the
this
needle.
is what you meant, Mark. This is what you do every night.
We're not moving the needle with Mr. Diamond. But if I wanted to bring out a game that people that I knew who weren't board gamers, that wasn't scary, that wasn't like okay, here's the rule book, sit down and listen to me for 45 minutes talk about how to play this game, and don't mix your resources or whatever. Mr. Diamond is like super accessible, super fun. You could teach it to anybody in 2 minutes and have a great time. So yeah, it's not going
Even
to
a
get people.
child.
Yeah, exactly, to children.
I think it is categorized as a children's game.
I believe it, but that did not keep me from adding it to my want in trade list immediately. So
And that was Mr. Diamond, which will bring us to Out of Sorts, which is a cute little card game. So Kellen, when he was teaching us this, was describing it as similar to Wilmot's Warehouse, which I think is a really good way to describe this game. Out of Sorts is a cooperative real-time game in which one person is the librarian and the rest of the players are the aliens. Are you aliens in this game, Kellen?
I don't know. Someone is a librarian and you're sorting alien
You're sorting alien creatures, and
hieroglyphics.
you have the whole game is on a timer. It's 20 minutes, right?
Yes.
So the whole game is on a 20-minute timer, and you are essentially trying to move through as many levels as you possibly can within those 20 minutes. And your score every game is basically how far did we get? Did we get 2 levels higher than last time or whatever? So a lot of this rides on the librarian. You have to be a good librarian. You have to be able to sort these things in a way that makes sense to your fellow players. And so that's why we kind of use Wilmot's Warehouse as a frame of reference, because you are incentivized to kind of create this story. So in the sorting, you are given 3 cards. For example, you might have a card that says reptiles, you might have a card that says cats, and you might have a card that says monsters. Those are in a specific order, and those are determining how you are sorting or they're kind of guardrails for your storytelling as the librarian. For example, if monsters is on one end and reptiles is on the other end and cats is in the middle, you're kind of having to help your team understand on a scale of monsters to reptiles where the specific card that you're sorting lives within that scale. So this is a super chaotic game where it's real time. So everybody has a hand of cards and they are looking within their hand of cards to try and find something that they've been given by the librarian. They're trying to match that card within their deck. If they don't have that card within their deck, they have to describe it without showing it. They have to describe that card. And these are like wacky designs on these cards. So you're saying crazy stuff like this is 6 pearls wrapped around a diamond, like crazy stuff. And then the other players hopefully will help you and be like, oh, I have that card. Once you have a match, you give it to the librarian. The librarian sees that and has to then add it to their library. They have to make it fit, and they have to basically tell you why it's fitting in the place that it's fitting. The next part of it, once you have matched and basically the librarian has sorted those, then the librarian has to shuffle all of the ones that you just found, and they come out and you have to put them in the right order without the librarian's help. So that's basically the game. You're trying to do that in escalating levels of difficulty basically throughout the game. And it's pretty hard. I will say that Mark is a better librarian than Kellen.
We all knew that. We all knew that. Didn't have to be said.
No, we didn't know that. We didn't know that. You guys are learning the
Kellen
game.
had like weird rules.
There were no weird rules.
He had like weird rules of how he was sorting them, and then he also like was just doing it really quickly while we were.
It's a speed game.
Yeah, but you need to make sure we understand where you're putting the card that we're gonna have to sort. Kellen.
I was following the Dewey Decimal System. Mark did his own thing.
No, Mark had a story. I will say there were too many seeds in Mark's story, but aside
That's
from
true.
that, it was very
I'm willing to
good.
take credit.
Near the end, you tried to add another one, and we're like,
no
more
more
seeds.
seeds, no more seeds.
He's going over there. Yeah, so this is like a very gamery Wilmot's Warehouse, I would say, where it's like so esoteric as to be like, what are we even doing? But the sort of emergent storytelling of like, okay, well, that's clearly the seance happening in the middle, and okay, there's the guy doing the seance, and on a scale of like math to alchemy, obviously this is closer to the math side, and then this is a math symbol, but it's the craziest math symbol, and it's a bit of a shared story because Mark would like suggest something as the librarian, and then we would add to it, right? And then Mark, when he was calling back to it, would reference what we had said, where it's like this narrative sort of journey of categorizing like complete nonsense together really quickly. I had a chance to play this as both the librarian and as a normal player. I will say there is some stress being the librarian, especially if you're playing with dumb.
I will echo that stressful being librarian versus being a player. I think this is, for me, it's different. It's a different game than Wilmot's Warehouse, is what I'm trying to say. But I think for me, I would always prefer Wilmot's Warehouse because the abstractness of the cards in Out of Sorts leads to like the need to interpret what they are. So there's a lot of like squiggles and very rudimentary shapes, and you have to sort of like extrapolate, okay, this is a palm tree, or this is a diamond, this is like a necklace. But you have a scale of just like sort of 3 criteria, and it's towards the end, you're really like trying to make granular differences in this spectrum where you're just kind of pulling them out of nowhere, and they sort of often don't really make sense. In Wilmot's Warehouse, the shapes are still sort of like kind of random, but they have like a familiarity to them that leads to like, and when you're building a story, you sort of have more like a fleshed out story, and it feels more like real and put together and like shared narrative than this. And part of that is because you're sharing the narrative in Wilmot's Warehouse, whereas in this game, you have one person who's building the narrative. But I found like towards the end of our game of this that we would get a card and we had this spectrum that was built up, and I was just hammering a card in somewhere in the spectrum where it didn't really make sense, and it was just like it felt a little too gamery and a little less shared narrative, shared enjoyment, shared like building up of this game experience. Still fun. I still would play it again, but I think for what I'm looking for, I would always go Wilmot's Warehouse. But this was interesting. Very, very interesting.
My impression definitely was that it was strictly harder than Wilmot's in almost every axis, right?
For
because
sure.
not having like the 2D grid, like everything have to be in a linear order, like the sort of the general inscrutability of like once a card's in my game's case, Kellen's hands, it may as well just be gone from existence because like it's not in front of me anymore. The idea that you're doing everything in real time, not just the recall of it, which is, Wilmot's makes you do kind of everything like asynchronously, then at the end it's one big real-time phase, whereas everything is under time pressure and out of sorts. It's a fun challenge, one that just kind of felt a lot more inscrutable to me, and I think to Mark's point just makes it a lot less accessible, a lot less maybe fun, but very different for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I fall in that. I have Wilmot's Warehouse, love Wilmot's Warehouse, but I find that after you've played with the same group twice, they will always be around a minute to solve it. And like, it's like, oh, if we could have solved it in under 30 seconds, we would have solved it better. Where Out of Sorts is like, how the hell do you even possibly complete this? Like, because you're going upwards instead of downwards, for lack of another way to say it. Like, I think this is better. And my impression of it, I was like, I think this is better than the people I'm playing with. That was my impression while we were playing.
What?
No, the game. Like, my impression of it was higher than yours.
Oh,
I see.
I thought you were saying the game was like better.
I was saying both. But,
we weren't good enough for the game.
No. I would never say that. But this is also indie game. So this is like, more. Wilmot's Warehouse is like a big production. This is a deck of cards. I think it's very novel for what it is. Space Biff says it reminds him of what it means to be human. Mark, how do you respond?
I disagree. I do not understand. I did not find my humanity playing this game, but I have not read the review, so maybe I'll be enlightened.
It does strike me as a rough gig that this came out in the same year as Wilmot's, for sure. Like, I think that had we played this before, we would probably have a very different impression of both of the games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Good shout.
I thought it would be way harder to teach because you can't say this is like Wilmot's Warehouse.
Right.
That was Out of Sorts. And with that, I think are just going to touch on some other little things that we played. We don't have time to go super deep into them, but we do want to still talk about, as Neelan mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we did play a bunch of games, so we want to pull just a few more in. Others will be saved for future episodes, so I guess stay tuned. Do you want to tease what those are, Kellen?
No.
Okay, no teasing.
New Carl Chudiak games. New Reiner Knizia games. What's the third one? I can't remember now.
I can't either. Oh, this one.
New trick-taking games. That's not that. That's not great. Everyone.
Oh, okay. Mark, do you want to kick us off here for our little party of confetti of small things that we're talking about?
small tastes here. I wanted to briefly talk about Dragon's Gold, it was fitting the same criteria sort of as Corporate America, a negotiation-y, shouty game that plays a lot of players in a short amount of time. Basically, Dragon's Gold is like you are fighting dragons with your opponents, and once a certain number of you are like in to defeat a dragon, the whole game rests on like splitting up the rewards. So there's like some number of gems, and you have a minute to divide them up between everybody who's involved in the battle. And if you can't come up with a agreement between everybody involved within the minute, then nobody gets any of the rewards. And it's just like a very shouty, pleading game. Like when the negotiation clock is ticking down and nobody's agreed to anything, you just like sort of make concessions, or you plead, or you beg, or you just like shout. A lot of fun. Older game, just again boils down to negotiation purely, and was silly fun.
Super fun, super silly.
we received a review copy of Carrom. Can someone pronounce this for me? I think
I've always heard it's
was
Carrom.
Yeah, Carrom is always
Carrom.
what I thought.
Carrom, which is not crokinole, but is a different crokinole. So this is a game that is imagine crokinole. No, I don't know. How do you imagine crokinole? I don't know.
How do you imagine crokinole?
It's a disc flicking game that is played on a board with 4 sort of pockets, similar to a pool table in the corners. And rather than, trying to flick your disc like crokinole into the middle, you're trying to play pool, essentially, which is flick a main disc into the set of discs, and then you're red, so you're trying to get all the reds into the pockets and then get the black one into the pocket. I've always wanted to try, Mark, Carrom,
Yeah.
Carrom, because of how popular crokinole is, and Carrom is it's like 70% the same thing, which is disc flicking. And with a different board layout and with a little bit of a different, you're always resetting, and flicking the white disc. This was sort of like a beginner's board or sort of an Amazon, both sides. You could flip it over and play crokinole on one side. So we got some Carrom powder to try to make it sort of speed up a little bit. This was good. Mark, you're now the proud owner of a Carrom board. So
I am.
Now have a Carrom board from me and a crokinole board from me.
That's true.
How do you feel as the owner of both boards?
Yeah. So one thing about Carrom is I had a very, very passing familiarity with Carrom, just watching videos of it. I just picked it up through osmosis over the years, and I've never been sure about the rules, but the way we were playing it, which are the default instructions in the game, wasn't the way that I thought Carrom was played, and that leads me to the board we had. The rules for Carrom fit on half a page, but the rule book was 20 pages or something like that, because there are 2 sides to the board and a bunch of different rules for variant games, or just one side is basically a crokinole-esque board with rules to crokinole. So I'm all for dexterity games, and this is again, the way you described it is pretty accurate. It's it's sort of like pool, but the flicking game. So that's always going to be fun. It's always going to be at a baseline fun to be flicking things to at a pocket and whatever. It's fun. I think I'll probably try the different variants or see if there's anything else that strikes my fancy. But yeah, I think crokinole is still the superior game to me. But I don't know if I've actually played Carrom the way I think it's been, and this is a game that's played around the world, so maybe there's a bunch of different variants, but fun. It's like a dexterity game that is going to be, if you're into dexterity games, flicking games, you're going to find it fun at a minimum, because it's just flicking things. Flicking things is fun. The end.
Put that on the box.
That's right.
Flicking things is fun. You're not wrong. Neelan?
One thing I was curious to get your guys' take on, I'd covered the gang on the previous episode, but you guys were playing it for the first time. This is the cooperative poker-like game. We spoke about it a little bit on the bonus episode, but you guys had a good time with the gang?
We loved the gang.
You love the gang? You're we should buy it?
Oh, yeah.
Who are we playing the gang with, Christina?
Our friends.
Who are our friends, Christina?
Well, Neelan.
I'll play the gang.
All right.
We should play
Neelan,
poker.
do you have the gang?
I do not have the gang, but I would probably pick it up at some point. Yeah, I think the thing that was very interesting about that session of it was the mix of player skills, both in just poker ability and kind of people that played the gang before and haven't played the gang before, and it kind of brought to mind all I think the biggest highs that cooperative games can have, which is you are trying to communicate something, especially sort of no communication cooperative games, right? Where you're trying to communicate something to someone, but the language that you're using to communicate that is very different depending on your skill level with either poker or the game itself. So Mark and I, who I think were more familiar with poker than a lot of the people at the table potentially, we kind of would so we kind of know what we're saying here. We're I think that yours is this, but we kind of get there. But then you're looking at other people around the table, and there's maybe less of that very instant communication happening, and more of the learning in real time, which is just fun to navigate.
So my read on it, as definitely Christina and I were the lowest poker knowledge. I actually put you and Mark as sort of the idiots in the middle.
I don't think that's fair.
And then Daniel and Heart of the Artichoke were actually the people the flop, the river. Blah,
that is
blah.
not accurate.
They were the ones over there.
That is.
They were the ones over in the. That's accurate?
That is not accurate.
I don't think that's accurate at all.
Yeah, that is not accurate representation.
What do you think, Christina?
They're offended, Kellen.
Who did you think knew the most about poker?
Well, I mean, I definitely thought Heart of an Artichoke was up there.
And then Daniel.
And then Daniel.
Yeah. So,
Well,
wait, that's not accurate.
I think you
No, I'll tell you what.
here's what I take issue with is you describe
This
it
is
like then there's a massive gulf before Mark.
No, I didn't say
That's what
that.
Kellen
I
was
didn't
saying.
say that.
Kellen was saying
no.
truly, it
This
is
is-
the middle.
No. This is wholly inaccurate. I'm going to say this is This is just showing your lack of self-admitted lack of poker knowledge that you would suspect that this was the case. This was absolutely incorrect. This is wrong.
Listen, you guys are just talking back and forth with each other, just around in the middle.
I was using all the poker lingo. I think the problem is you didn't understand the poker lingo and you thought I was just babbling.
Yeah.
But I was using all
Yeah,
of
I
it.
couldn't understand.
I was saying the flop. I was saying the nuts. I was saying everything. You just didn't know what I was talking about.
I never thought you guys were the idiots, just for the record.
Oh, I'm going to roll the tape back again here and maybe show the...
So we're all getting sleepy, and that was the gang. And do we want to talk about more stuff?
No, we do not.
Okay. More stuff for future episodes. So yeah, I guess that was episode number. Do we say that episode
Yeah,
number again?
we did. We reiterate. We also reintroduce ourselves for people who have forgotten. I think that's what we want to do.
That was episode number 330. I'm your host, Christina the Blue Tank.
And again, I'm Mark. The Green
this
Tank.
is
I'm Kellen,
yeah.
the Neelan tag.
What? Neil, no. I'm Kellen.
and we're all happy to be here with you. We're having a grand old time. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And yeah, I guess that's it. Have a good night. We're gonna go to sleep.
Bye-bye.
This is the end of episode 330.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, hitting stop.
I'm high. I'm ready. I want you to save me from myself, baby.
Mark, haven't the Irish been through enough?
They have been through enough.
See?
Wait, who's hosting?
Oh, yeah. Christina, do you want to host?
Sure.
What number is this?
330.
All right, 3, 2. Oh, you're supposed to say this, Christina.
Okay, I'm hosting. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Felt
That's
right.
definitely making the outro.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
beeped, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
of course. We would never have
Good.
foul
We have
language.
children listening to this in Neelan.
Actual children.
What did you
me.
say?
I said actual children.
Yeah, probably. You can't rule it out.
Or children at heart, at least.
That's what we're all here for, right?
Yeah, that's what we're fostering. We're fostering that kind of mindset.
Excuse me.
If you're not a child at heart, what are you even doing
Get
here?
the off this podcast.
Okay, so this is the point where I just start the episode?
Yeah.
No, that's actually 10
Okay.
minutes from now.
Yeah, it was 40 minutes ago. to be clear, but
Okay, so I'm asking you if this is what you normally say, because it's been a very long time.
Yeah.
Hello, blah, blah, blah. Welcome to the Board Game Barrage
yeah, you got it.
So far, good.
Barrage podcast. This is episode number...
330?
3:30.
Okay, that's an easy number to remember. I got a good number, 330.
Yeah, only 2 digits.
Yeah, exactly. I am your host, Christina the Blue Tank, and with me, as always, are the other 3 tanks. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody ready?
Ready.
Hello, and welcome to the Board Game Barrage podcast. I am Christina, the Blue Tank, and here with me, as always, are the
No,
other...
Christina.
Okay, I forgot to say it's episode 330. I know. I'll start over. There's an order to these things, Kellen? I have
not.
to say
You-
one thing and then the next?
Okay. You also forgot the slogan, but I can coach you through it.
I'm not saying the slogan.
A podcast about board games.
Hello, and welcome to the Board Game Barrage podcast. This is, what do you say? This is episode 30? That sounds 330? That sounds
Well,
dumb.
I
You
don't
can
know.
welcome
I
to
think we
episode
usually say
330
hello
of-
and welcome to episode 330 of the
For
Board Game
real?
Barrage.
Welcome to episode 330? That sounds weird too.
how would I say it? Hello.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is like jazz.
Yeah,
Just
do whatever
improvise.
you want.
Honestly, yeah. You anything you said was
It's
totally
Okay.
jazz.
Yeah, this
This is Christina's episode.
free form. This is
That's
free
right.
form.
Freeform, baby. Okay. Hello. Oh, it just sounds so weird.
I just
I
remembered
mean,
how
I
I
think
was.
hello. Okay, I think she can freeform, but
Yeah,
hello and
exactly.
welcome to the
No,
Board
exactly.
Game Barrage
No,
podcast.
no. Exactly. There's no,
I think-
structure to that.
I said that already though, like 3 times.
I think
I do
yeah,
think that's
I think that's all fine. To be clear, like it was introducing everyone and then saying the episode,
and then
number.
saying the episode. All right.
that was
right.
that was a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, welcome to the Board Game Barrage podcast. We are about to record episode number 330.
No,
Yep.
well, they'll have heard it if they're listening.
Okay, and this is all right. Hello, and welcome to the Board Game Barrage podcast.